Hello and welcome to video number 3 of the Unicef ETT Management series. So following on from the last video, we're now going to be focusing on the stakeholders who we actually interact with, and here I'm going to be talking about understanding how they operate and what we can do to influence decisions. So let's start with the who. Okay, so who are the key stakeholders? Um, First of all, looking at the very, very top of the pile, you'll have the mission leader or the mission director, whatever title your organization gives to the person who's ultimately in charge. And there'll be a deputy, and then you'll have senior people in the humanitarian side, finance, and so on. So you need to sort of maybe map out who these key stakeholders are, what they do, and what's important to them. Um, because with that understanding, you'll be able to deliver your program or your support services, your ICT support services more efficiently. Um, and of course, this is all about a humanitarian response. So the programs people are definitely key stakeholders. So in addition to talking to the top leaders, which effectively are the budget holders, you'll need to talk to some of the other sort of stakeholders on the humanitarian side. So uh, UNICEF, Save the Children were both promoting services for children, which is about healthcare, child protection, um, education, and so on. So we might want to talk to some of those programs people. But in other organizations, um, you will have different humanitarian actors that needs to be consulted, so you get an idea of what's important to those teams as well. So really important to sort of understand where the program's going, because that kind of helps you identify the sort of technology solutions that you might deploy to a particular setting, particularly around headcount when you're trying to size up the sort of internet service you want to provide. ICT is not the only service delivery. There's finance, there's HR, there's supply chain. So we need to work with those teams as well to make sure that they're supported, but also they're supporting the ICT function as well. So key stakeholders, really, really important. I want to come back to this challenge again with some of the stakeholders. Brand IT, it's why are you here? Um, and this is normally our first challenge. Why is a geek in the field? Um, and it's a bit of an old argument for me, but it's one that I've been fighting for many years. In a previous organisation I used to work for, um, they would send out media people to report stories, really important stuff, um, but not the technician. And and the program suffered in those first days when there's no technician on the ground to support the technology, and I'm not just saying just IT, but it's the communications, it's the power supplies uh, everything else, and and it's actually to the detriment of the response. So when we're dealing with stakeholders, we've got to sort of be very, very clear that we do have a wide catalogue of services, and we have to be good at communicating um, with all these people about what we do. And then we start to become a trusted partner. That's the ultimate aim, to be the trusted partner. And certainly within Save the Children, I felt that I was the trusted partner because the amount of people that was banging on my door for support, even at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a pharmacist sort of saying, the refrigeration system has gone down, can you help me? And I'm not a refrigeration engineer, but I went online and found some circuit diagrams, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to try some of these fuses inside the panel, and it worked. So um, So this is why we're here, to be helpful, to keep the program going, and to provide the service. So, um, so if you are ICT and you're at the response in the first wave, well done, your organization has won the first argument. The second thing really is, there's a few dinosaurs out there that doesn't really think ICT should be there, but you'll need to work on those people and convert them into our way of thinking, because ICT has a really, really important role to play. So the next thing is, the brand IT does actually get in the way sometimes. They sort of think, well, you're a service delivery, and it's where in some organizations ICT as a role is being placed. Um, Now, if ICT in the structure of that response team is someone near the top reporting to um, at least someone who's got a seat on the senior leadership team, then you're going to get the flow of information that you need to help scale up the program, and you'll be able to get a feel for budgets and all that sort of thing. That's great. But in reality, what sometimes happens, and it's happened to me before, that we've got the person in charge of the response. Underneath that, you've got an operations director who's the deputy, and then reporting into that might be supply chain or logistics, and then IT reports into logistics. So we are so far removed from the top of the decision-making tree that that gets in the way. And to be quite honest, I think ICT as a role should not be reporting into logistics or supply chain or admin. Um, we should be sat alongside as equal partners, with representation on that um, top table, where the key decisions are made and the information is made available. So that's really, really important. And it does mean that for us to, as technicians, we need to smarten up our own way of communicating so that we are more effective at working with the senior stakeholders in particular. And this is absolutely critical. And the reason I mention this is because um, sometimes technicians, they talk this weird language of techno blabble, and it's we talk about we may as well be talking binary, to be quite honest, when we talk about some of the technologies, because if we get too technical of our language or overuse of industrial terms, then we might lose the audience. So, and that's really that's one of the big problems that we have as as a part of our technician's image. So we really have got to tailor our language, the way we communicate with the audience. So let me give you a couple of examples, which you know this could be like a comedy stand-up sketch. So here we go. Um, so I'm going to go and talk to the senior management, and I'm going to ask for some money for some technology. So let's try this. Good morning, management team. I'm from the technology team. I want to secure some money for financing a VSAT system. Now, the VSAT that we propose to buy, we've done a complete site survey, and we think we're going to put in a C-band system with a 2.4 meter dish. That's going to combat rain fade. And we're going to sort of link that up with the Eutelsat bird, which is in the Clark Belt. So that will, on its return path through the C-band pathway, will link up with the teleport in Germany, and then We'll break out there on public IP networks through to the data center, and we're going to be using all sorts of VPNs to secure the the link so that we're clear of hackers. Um, the equipment will be arriving in country soon, and I want something like 20,000 US dollars to get the system set up with our technicians. Um, and in addition to that, we're going to um, have a running cost of $3,000 a month. We need to buy some spare LMBs, bucks, and some a spare Cisco 320, and we're going to be using the iDirect X7 because that allows for better throughput of the IP stream. Okay, that was a bit of a gobbledygook, wasn't it? So that's not going to work. That's not going to get a decision. So, if I was a programs manager, I'd be sort of saying, get out of my office. Just really, why are you here? That is not going to get the result you want. So we've got to use a language that relates to the program. So let me try again. Okay, this time I'm going to do it in a way that might be better received by the audience. So here goes. Good morning, leadership team. I'm from the technology team. I understand that we're going to be setting up a new site about 50 kilometers from here, and you're going to have about, I think, ultimately 20 staff operating, and it's going to be like a sub base. So we've done a little bit of research. We know that there's no internet connections up there, so we think the best solution to keep that site online is to invest in satellite technology so that we actually get the internet down through a satellite. It's called VSAT. So it's going to cost you $20,000 to set up and then about $3,000 a month to run. And we can actually flex that a little bit because if we reduce the headcount, we can reduce the service. So this service is going to be really, really important because I know that as a senior team, you'll be going to that site frequently. So for you, the team leader, you'll be able to continue your audio calls with HQ so that you can continue the coordination, and the supply chain teams and the finance teams will be able to efficiently access their systems so that they can continue placing orders and so on. We will be, it is expensive to run, I know, and we will put some controls in place so that things like staff will not be able to access YouTube and Facebook during working hours because that can actually slow the connection down. So that's the rough plan. Do we have some money, please? There we go. And hopefully I'll get a yes from the management team. So that's kind of the approach. And what I did in that sort of speech to the team, I kind of stated that, satellite technology was going to be the way that we provided a connection. There was no alternatives. I sold the benefits to the team. Okay, so and if you sell the benefits to the team, then they're more likely to take it in. So that's the importance between sort of getting your messaging wrong and getting it right. So now I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into how people like to receive information and how they process information or how they think. Now, there's hundreds of courses online on on how you influence people. So I'm just distilling this down into some real high level tips, but there are some good courses online which is about stakeholder management or even how to make a sales pitch. So as part of your stakeholder mapping, whilst you're trying to understand who the key people are, what they do, what's important to them, we like to know, what's their sort of, how do they like to receive information? We've all got senses. We've got ears, we've got eyes, we've got smell, we got feel, we got touch, and some people prefer to rely on, especially when receiving information, they like to have information presented in a specific way. Um, so you get what we call the audio people, where you can go in and explain the concept, and they will get it. Okay, but I've come across people that if you start speaking without any support, then they're just going to lose the thread and disengage. So these are the visual people. So and the clue to the visual people is if you walk into, let's say, a country director's office and there's whiteboards all over the place, then you know that's a good clue that that's a visual person. So you might want to illustrate your sort of thinking with some diagrams and that sort of thing. They don't have to be pretty, but that's a key thing. And then the third type of person out there is what we call the kinesthetic person, that they kind of like to learn things through doing things. So it's a bit more interactive, and so that's the person that you might have to take on a walking tour of the site, so you can actually explain, I'm going to put um, a mast here that's going to link to that site over there. The VSAT's going to go here because we can't put it over there because there's a tree blocking it. They've got to really visualize it. Um, so it's kind of really important. So not just getting the language right, but how you deliver those bits of information, so that you can actually hopefully get some decisions and information out of these people. Um, so that's kind of getting the language and the approach right. The next thing is, how do people process information? What sort of characters are they? And here I'm going to give you three groups. So we get the big ideas person, okay, which is the real enthusiastic person, who's got some big ideas that yeah, we can solve all the world's problems, we can get this done, bang bang, and so they can be a little bit chaotic. They may even keep on changing their mind because they keep on having new ideas popping up all the time, and so trying to sort of drill these people down and into a plan can be difficult. So they can be hard work. The next type of person, the next character, is probably a bit easier to deal with. It's the results person. So basically, you go in and you sort of say, right, this is the problem, this is the solution, and they'll sort of say, yep, yeah, okay, just get it done and tell me when it's done, how much it's going to cost. And they can be a little bit hands-off, but they can also be quite challenging, because if you don't deliver the result, they're going to be sort of maybe a bit angry. And then the third type of character is what we call the data person. So this is the person that if you go in with an idea, they might be asking loads and loads and loads of questions. They want infinite amount of detail before they get to the decision. And these are the people that can be very, very difficult to work with, because their inability to make a decision can sometimes lead to delays in you implementing the program. So it's kind of really, really important to find out, especially with the data people, what sort of questions they might ask, and go into your meetings prepared with all the information that you need to satisfy their need for information. And you're not going to get this right all the time, but I think after a few encounters, you might get it right. And in fact, one of my best bosses was a data person. I learned a lot from this guy, because clearly I was going to him with some good planning, and he kept on coming at me with questions. I thought, we're never going to get to the decision. But what it taught me was go to the meeting better prepared with all the answers. And there came a point I wanted to kick off a project, and I thought, yeah, this guy, he asked me lots of questions. So I'm going to set out all the information, sent off the email, had a meeting, and he sort of said, yep, approved. So no questions. So I got it right. But it took me about 2 months to get there, but we don't have that sort of time in disaster response, so we've got to get there more quickly. So key thing is, in the disaster response, we need maybe, we're going to need to have plenty of meetings, that's for sure, but there's two key meetings that I think that's really, really important in a response. So the first one is, it's really sort of at the very, very early stages where we start to get the information. We need to get information about the project, how it's going to scale up, and that's going to be really, really important. And then later on, once we've got a deep understanding of the objectives and we've designed the technology, we've got a feel for what it's going to cost, then we need to get our budget signed off. And and I think one of the important things is that it's actually what we call the development of the elevator pitch. And it's a sales technique. So let's say you're in a situation where you've sent a few emails, you're trying to set up a meeting, it's not happening, you need a decision made. Okay, so somehow you got to engineer an encounter. So it might be at the water cooler, it might be you might be in a vehicle for a short ride with, let's say, the country director, the person you're trying to reach. So what you're going to do, you've got 15 seconds with this person. So are you going to blurt out that you want money for a complicated plan in 15 seconds? Are you going to sort of have an elevator pitch around that? Try it. Okay. I can tell you it's not going to work. Okay, because in that 15 seconds, maybe 10 seconds is going to be eaten up with, hey, how you doing? Small talk. Okay, that's not going to work. So the elevator pitch I would put together for that one would be, hey boss, hope your day's going well. I've got some really important decisions to be made here. Would it be possible to get 10 minutes of your time in a meeting so that we can sign off on a budget to put internet connections into the remote site, or whatever the ask is? And maybe insert some a quick line about, if it's like security communications, then there's a policy to be met. So really important. That's a bit of a stick. So that's, and hopefully that approach will maybe get you some time in the room. So let's say that the leader agrees to a meeting. That's great. So the important thing is plan for that meeting. Be on time. Do not be late. Okay. Okay, the team leader might be late, but you must not be late. Ever, 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 ever. Okay, because you'll miss the opportunity. Have a clear agenda. Okay, so it's important to have the agenda, so because the key thing about the meeting is you want to get something out of the meeting. There's an objective. Okay, so don't have a meeting for a meeting's sake. Time is valuable. So if you want a decision for a budget, that's the objective of the meeting. If you want information about how the operation is going to scale up, and you want information so that you can actually plan the infrastructure, that's the objective. So be clear about that. Get the right people to the meeting. Okay, like the people that's got the information or the people that's going to make the decision. Okay, don't invite additional people because they just add to the noise and they will just take the discussion off track and you may not reach a decision. So the right people, the right agenda with the objectives. Okay, as I mentioned before, if appropriate, you can assign a timekeeper to keep the flow of the meeting on track, and you can always have a rabbit hole monitor that actually will sort of call out if you're going off topic, because some people can. But the key thing is, when you get to the end of the meeting, you need to have a decision. And so as you get towards the end of the meeting, and so it's important to ask the question, do you approve this plan and budget? Or do you agree with the next steps? It's a binary answer to that. It's yes or no. And if the answer is, okay, I'll think about it, or no, then the important thing is to have a strategy to get a decision. So you can sort of say, do you think we can have a decision by tomorrow morning? And is there anything I can do to help you get to the decision? And then hopefully you'll get the budget signed off, and then you can start building your infrastructure. So that concludes number 3 of the management videos. Please review the chapter on management in the Emergency Telecommunications Handbook. It has been updated with the new management module, and there's some additional tips and tricks in the text, including some of the items I've covered in these 3 videos. So thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you out there on deployment.